So what we're going to go through in our presentation here today is our brief review of how our staff, our clef, and our note names work. So this will help us read music, but how do we go about reading our music? There are a few things for us to go over. The first thing we'll start with is our staff. What is our staff? Our staff is a group of 5 lines. We can count them from top to bottom or from bottom to top. What does this mean for us? So looking here, we have our example. We have our 5-line staff starting from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And on our other side here, we can do that in the reverse, starting from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is our 5-line staff. Oh, so this makes a little more sense now. Our staff is our 5 lines there. Is the staff the same for all of our instruments? Kind of. Everyone will have 5 lines, but violins will have a special clef, violas will have a special clef, and then cellos and basses will share a special clef. What is our clef? A clef is a unique symbol that we'll see on the left side of each line of staff. For violin, we are looking at our clef here. This is our long squiggly here that we see. This clef is called the treble clef or the G clef. Remember, we know it's the treble clef because it means treble. Why is it also known as the G clef? Well, it kind of looks like a super fancy G if we were to go through and draw that, thinking kind of like how Disney uses their letters. So we have that nice fancy G. So remember, violins, treble, or G clef. Cool. What does this have to do with us reading our notes? Well, remember how we name our notes. We're going to use letters for our note names, but we're only going to use 7 letters. Those are our specific letters that we've picked out, and they are going to be the first 7 letters of our alphabet. So that gives us A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So note names are letters, and our letter numbers are only going to be, our letters are only going to be the first 7 in the alphabet. So what does this look like on our staff? Well, it's different for each clef, but in this video, we're going to focus on our violin clef and staff. So for violins, we have our treble clef here, we can see, but remember, it's also called the what clef? It is the G clef. Remember, we have that nice fancy looking G here. So what we can see is that we have our 5 lines for our staff, and then we have some notes placed on the staff. When we're placing our notes on the staff, we can place them on either a line or a space. So we can see that here we have our line notes, we have our space notes. We'll start with our space notes though. Our bottom space here is F. As we move over to our next space up, we have A. Moving past our middle line, our next space is C. And then all the way up at the top, our last space up here is E. So for our violins here, space notes are face. Space is face. As we move down to our line notes, our bottom note here on our bottom line is an E. Then, if we move up 1 line, we have a G. As we move to our middle line, we have B. Our next line above that is D. And then our top line here is our F. So, as we're going through and reading our note letters, what we can see here, if we start all the way at the bottom, we have our E. And if we go to our next note, that note is actually going to be on the space because we have a line to a space. And then we'll go from a space to a line. So E here, going up one note, takes us to this F in the space. Then F is going to move up a line to G here. So now remember, we only use 7 letters for our note names, and they are A through G. So after G, we don't continue in the alphabet, but instead we go back to A. And this A puts us on a space again. Then from there, we repeat through our alphabet. So A takes us to B, B up to our next space takes us to C, C up to our line takes us to D, D up to our last space here takes us to E, and then E to our last line takes us to F. A good way we can remember this for our line notes, though, E, G, B, D, F, we have even good bears don't faint. You are also welcome to come up with your own funny way to remember those as well. So, we've gotten to the end of our lesson. Feel free to click on the Google form for the parking lot document if you have any questions. But what we're going to try and do is make sure you are comfortable enough with the staff, clef, and note letters that you could explain it to a friend. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them.